Welcome. Welcome to your town. I'm Stan Mickelson, Select Board Member of the Town of Dartmouth. And I am so pleased to bring in our new Town Administrator, Mr. Shawn MacInnes, and officially welcome him to the Town of Dartmouth and DCTV. Welcome.
Thank you much. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So we'll make this nice and light.
Okay.
I'd like the thousands and thousands of people that watch this program for informative use only. Just give us a little bio.
Oh, okay. Well, I have been in municipal government for over 20 years. I've spent that time mostly with the town of Yarmouth previous to this. In that capacity, I had held many roles, starting in DPW as an engineer, moving up as the technology director for a number of years, moving up into a more management role where I oversaw human resources. I was on the executive finance team. So I've pretty much done just about everything in municipal government you can imagine.
Except Town Administrator.
Except Town Administrator.
Now you are.
Now I have done that.
Wonderful.
So, and through those years, I say this, and I think I said this to the board in my interview, is that, working in technology was great in that, it really gave me an in-depth knowledge of every department in a municipality. So they all use some sort of technology to run their operations, so helping implement that was really instrumental in my development over the years. So I think a lot of town administrators may not have that skill set because they had been in management for a long time. And so I always like to say I'm able to roll up my sleeves and really get to the root of problems.
That you've done too, in a short period of time.
Yes.
The marks are pretty high right now. So.
Oh, excellent. I'm glad to hear that.
A little bit about family, if
sure. I'm originally from Worcester, Mass, but I've been living on the Cape since 1995. So I like to say, well, I'm from Cape Cod now, and not. But I live in Sandwich, which is not too far away from Dartmouth. It's nice. It's an easy commute. I have a daughter who's going to be a junior in high school, and she just got her license a few months ago.
Oh,
so. I like to say teaching her to drive, we were both pretty happy about it. It wasn't a traumatic experience, so I think that speaks a lot to my personality.
That's lovely. You have patience. I know that. I can vouch for that for sure. Well, that's nice. Trying time in parents' lives.
Oh, yes.
And children.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's great. So, maybe so we can segue into from Yarmouth to Dartmouth. Similarly in size, but not so similarly in population and a much larger government from budget all the way down. So are you comfortable at this point now coming from a much smaller government to a much larger government?
Yes. The towns are interesting in that they have a lot of similarities. Yarmouth, has a tight budget just like Dartmouth, so spending every dollar wisely is imperative. But also, they're coastal communities. Dartmouth has more agriculture and more commercial business. Yarmouth was more tourist-based. So they both have their challenges, and that's interesting. And Dartmouth's population stays pretty constant throughout the year, which is high, and whereas Yarmouth's would go up quite a bit in the summer months. So they both have their challenges, which makes it interesting. But they're also very similar. So how you manage your staff and departments, and one of my skill sets that I've acquired over the years is looking for operational efficiencies. That's something that no matter what environment you're in, there's always efficiencies that can be gained, and it's about providing the best service to the public for their tax dollars. So, one of the many things I'm looking to do here in Dartmouth is to provide a better service to the public, be that internally or online, so that the taxpayers get the most for their money.
Yeah, excuse me. That's in my opinion, social media, as we all look at it today, is not going away. It's getting more popular, and more people, no matter what the age group at this point now, go to social media to get information. And I think that's, in my opinion, one of the most important attributes you had over your competition. I thought it was important that we utilize your ability, and we have an IT person in town, and you'll be able to work and talk his language.
Correct.
And utilize his ability. Very smart man. He's done very well. And I'd like to see our website, really change a bit. I'd like to bring it out of the, the 19th century and bring it into the 21st century, and to make it more just easier for people to maneuver through it.
Right.
Especially my age group.
Uh-huh.
We all look at that and somewhat a not very good feeling, not easy feeling to go in there and try to manipulate through some of these websites. So the more customer friendly they become, the more they utilize,
right.
and for paying bills and this and that, et cetera, et cetera. But information about meetings and this and that, I think we need to look seriously at that as a town and utilize your skills.
Right. My take on technology online and online services is very important. I look at it as municipalities are a 24/7 operation nowadays, so we need to provide as much information and as many services as we can online to compensate for when the town offices are closed. Toward that end, I agree. The website is a very important tool to provide information to the public, and there's a lot of information that we're trying to provide online, so it can be difficult sometimes to navigate. So we need to determine, what are people looking for on the website, and make that more accessible than information that's not looked for very often. But that also ties into our social media presence in that, we want to get the word out about great things that are going on in town. And in my short time here, there's a lot of great things going on here in Dartmouth.
We're very fortunate.
And we talked about that, and getting the word out to the public is always not that easy. Right. So you really have to leverage your social media with the website, with your government access channel, to really get the word out to the public. And I think if you use those tools effectively, it can be really successful. So you want social media to point back to the website so that, yes, this is what's going on, but to learn more about this, you should go to the website. And people want to follow projects in town as well. So one of my goals is to have that information online so people can follow what's going on with the police station, what's going on with the library, or what's going on with the Maritime Center, so that they can access that information and say, oh, this is where they're at, and it's they've gone through this stage and now they're moving here. So it's interesting for a lot of people, but you want to make that information as easily accessible as possible. Yeah,
you do, and I really I think it should be on the top of our list. One of the top things.
It is. It's done.
So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, that we think is important to our town, and how what your take is on it. So now that you've been here a little while, you've seen how independent our boards and committees function. Certainly, this is how our town charter spells it out. But being a big town with a small structured government, it has challenges. So ideas on how you can make it better and manage the process.
Well, it can be difficult. There's I like to say there's a lot of passionate people in town, and they want the town to be successful, and sometimes it's in different ways. So I think the most important part is to really work with the boards, the select board, and the residents. So, what's our common goal, and getting people on board that they agree, on broader common goals, and let's work towards those goals. So I think if everyone's working toward a larger goal, they're more apt to kind of consider, different factions in town or different boards or how they operate, and I think they would work better together. So that's my goal, is to work towards a common larger goal.
And trying to have them all on the same plate.
Right, and I think
and we can do that
because at the end of the day, everyone's interested in making Dartmouth the best town it can be.
Exactly, and I think it does work out that way, and we just need to find, as you say, that common ground. Once we reach that common ground, everything else becomes quite easy to accomplish what we're trying to do. So I am sure you've seen both the vitality and the emptiness of Route 6, Fons Corner commercial area. Ideas on revitalizing some of the now substantial empty buildings and land.
Well, one of the things we're starting to do is, some of the vacant properties, we're contacting the owners to see, what the town can do to help facilitate, making these bringing these properties back into use. So that's one of my goals, is to contact them. I'm also, reaching out to the Chamber of Commerce to see if we can, start spearheading some projects together. And also, this leads into working with the universities, because that's a large population that uses services in town, and we want to find out, what businesses that, would be desirable for their students, and perhaps we could start to work towards bringing those businesses into some of these vacant properties.
And maybe, housing.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is always an issue. And obviously a university of that size, a lot of the students want to live off campus. So there's been a few projects that have come before us in my time that never got off the ground, but maybe if those same projects were in a different location, not as close to the university, in a more commercial area, maybe that could at some point move forward. I vision that probably will happen at some point.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And this all ties in, there's a lot of moving parts here. It's the, working with the businesses in the university, but also working with the town, the boards, and working with the planning board to, really, this is when I go back to what I was saying earlier, a common goal in town.
Yes,
so what's our common goal? And if we're all working towards that, it can be easy, but if, we're not working towards the same goals, these projects can be very difficult, so.
Yeah, Dave Tattlebaum and myself are, on a self-made committee, basically, trying to do exactly just that, to identify owners, to try to find, we call it low-hanging fruit. I mean, the buildings are there, the land's there. We're not, it's quite simple to, to utilize what's there. And people are very innovative today, especially with existing properties. So hopefully that's going to work, and we're going to the much needed dollars that we need to bring into the town to survive and continue to survive. We need to look for new revenues all the time, every day. That should be our #1 goal as far as keeping up as afloat financially, because the bills are getting, as we all know, the bills are coming in all the time, and they're getting larger and larger.
Right. From my perspective, as a town administrator, when I look at projects or my goals, it is, always with the eye on, does this reduce costs or generate revenues? So, if we can do both of those things, great. If we can do one or the other with these projects, that is the goal, and those would be the projects that take priority. So,
and that low-hanging fruit. Again, I'm simplifying it, but it is almost that simple. But you got to have a hands-on eye contact with these owners, and try to find out what we need to do to accommodate them.
Right, and one of the other things we look at, I mentioned earlier, with online services, the goal is to, working with these businesses is to help them, but we want to make doing business as easy as possible in town. So we want to know the business people that they can come in and say, wow, that process was very easy for me to go through, and the town was very helpful in me getting established with my business in town. That goes a long way, and word spreads fast. So that's the goal is to, the town can't always say yes, and things aren't always easy, but we want to do what we can to make projects successful and to bring businesses in, and providing those services is important.
Yeah, in our best interest, without a doubt. The Harbor Development Committee has been doing a lengthy, detailed study of that entire area. The project is somewhat modeled after a very successful study implementation from a program in Nantucket Harbor, and I'm sure our residents have been to other seaside areas where they see the revitalization of these areas. Once the findings are in, this will require a virtual town-wide commitment to make voted changes happen. your thoughts on experience you bring from your previous job as a role you might play in this process.
Well, I mean, I think the goal with the harbor is, to generate tourism and visits.
Yes.
So I have some experience in trying to generate tourism, and, with the harbor area, it's great. It's important to have a centralized area where people can congregate and businesses can be more densely populated. So that is what brings people in, where they can walk around the area or bike around the area. So that's really important, and Dartmouth has that. So I think the committee is probably going to, recognize that as one of the great assets of the area.
Yeah.
A lot of Cape Cod issues are that they don't have a lot of main streets in some of the towns, so that can make it difficult for tourism. So I'm anxious to see the results of the study, and I think that's something that we could work towards. Again, another project to work on, but really enhancing the area to make it long-term viable for the town.
Especially in the boating community.
Yes.
I truly don't think we utilize that area as much as we could, where we could offer such services, and for people it'd be a stopping point from point A to point B.
Right, exactly.
I know a few of them come in from the years and years ago when I was a kid. The New York Yacht Club used to come to town. But I don't believe they do that anymore. If they do it very quietly. But it was a big deal when I was a kid. So to utilize that area it'll be interesting, as you say, what this study will show, and hopefully it'll be something we can implement. We've got a good start. If everyone has not been down to Paid-Nearham, and to look at what we've done down there with new streets, new sidewalks, new lighting. We've got a brand new causeway.
Yes.
We have everything you possibly would want to invite people, families more importantly, families to come down, make a day of it.
Yes.
Enjoy themselves.
Yeah. It's a nice area. They just had a nice festival a few weeks ago. So there's a lot of potential. I was amazed when I went through over the winter. It's very different looking in the winter. It's beautiful. Yeah. And then you come in and see all the boats in the summertime, and it's really, it's a beautiful community. We are
very, very fortunate. I drive over that causeway with my wife, and we look on both sides and we say to each other, how blessed are we that we have something like this? Yes. We are truly blessed.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a hidden gem there.
Yeah, we want more people to know about it.
Yeah.
So, Shawn, so what do you think you'd love to accomplish in very quickly the first 3 years of your leadership?
Well, a lot of it, goes back to providing better services, improving the services, offering more online services, making it easier for businesses to do business in town. That's important, and that really, that's a cornerstone for the future. Going through it and helping facilitate business in town. So when we look at Route 6 and having to help develop that, having a long-term goal, working with the planning board to really develop some long-term goals for the town and work towards those. So, yeah, I mean, that's one of them. It's working with the university, trying to do some partnership to take advantage of, the skill sets of the students, and hopefully we can do some internships, but just working with the university to help with the businesses in town and provide, like I said earlier, that's a large population that's there most of the year, so we want to, help them to use some of the services and some of the businesses in town, so that's nice for teamwork. So those are two big initiatives that, I'd like to work towards, and then also just, providing more efficiencies in town and looking for ways for us to do things better, to provide a better service, and have, to reduce a lot of redundancy, and, not so much have staff working on, like I said earlier, redundant work or photocopying, but just have them be able to service people that come in and provide better service that way. So those are some of the things I'm looking at, in the next 3 years.
We, early on in my select board seat, we tried to implement a reorganization of the town hall. and met with a bit of resistance. But I think at the end of the day, we will be forced to do some reorganization, just on the financial side. The duplicity in all types of government, it's not just us, but it amazes me that you see so much of it. And those are some of the things that we'll need to do to bring us forward financially. And we're looking to you for that help, that leadership. So moving after that 3 years, and you're going to be here another 3 years after that,
yes.
Without a doubt, what do you think that long-range plans? What do you think about those?
Well, I haven't given a lot of thought to the long-range plans, but Dartmouth is a great community. It's got a lot to offer. In my experience here in town, it's very diverse, and it's got a great commercial base. It's got some beautiful coastline. It's got some really beautiful rural areas in the north and south. So it kind of has it all. And I say, to people, they ask me, well, how's Dartmouth? And I say, it's a beautiful community. It's really a hidden gem. I don't think a lot of people know about all its assets. They know it's got a great commercial base, and they come here to do their shopping, but they don't know that it's got great hiking trails in the north. It's got some beautiful coastline, a lot of agriculture. So, my long-term goal would be to continue to enhance that. Yeah. And, to market that so you get, more tourism in, so people that are hikers or
make it a destination.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that would be my long-term goal, to really, enhance those assets and then show them off. Yeah,
that's great. That's wonderful. I don't think you're prepared for this, but I'd be interested in what your comment might be. Our town, the town of Dartmouth, is growing in leaps and bounds. The population is growing. This is truly a destination. The opportunity to come to our town and live with a family and put their children through our Dartmouth school systems, one of the finest around, is so important to most people that I've talked to, anybody that's new coming into town, because they just recognize the town as leaders, and we take that very serious. And you're one of the leaders that will really bring it to another level. But the town's growing. What would your thoughts be to move the town in a different direction as far as government, aka make it a city, or a different form of government other than town meeting?
Well, there's many forms of government. They all have their pros and cons. That is something, that would, I couldn't answer that right now. And that is something that, the town voters need to make that decision. And, as a town administrator working with the board, is to, present the options that would be in the best interest of the town, and have, that the taxpayers and the voters decide that. So, I'm certainly willing to, this is one of the things as an engineer, I like to look at all the alternatives. Sure. and weigh them and weigh the pros and cons, and I would certainly be willing to do that, and I would enjoy doing that. And, ultimately the decision is for the voters.
They have to vote themselves out of a job.
Right.
However, the time at some point that question will come up. Will it be in 3 years or 6 years or 10 years? We obviously don't know that, but other cities, other towns have done it successfully, and it'll be driven by the community.
Well, and this is interesting, and this goes to a larger issue in all municipalities, is that a lot of the boards and committees, they're not getting the attendance, and they're not getting the volunteers that they used to get. It's almost like there's a generation that's sort of aging out, and there's not another generation coming in that has that same civic interest in being involved in the town, and being, or running for a seat in the town, or just being on a committee. So, I look at that, and I said, I think to myself, well, what's the long-term future here? How do we engage a younger generation to get more involved? One of my projects is, it's not the priority, but it's high on my list, is to, work with the schools and the university to help, get a new generation involved in municipal government and an interest in it and wanting to be on a board or a committee or just volunteer their time. A lot of times with board members, people can complain a little bit about them, but they're volunteering their time. And I always say, we really need to, appreciate that. And when I'm working with these boards and committees, I appreciate that they're here on their own free will, trying to make the town a better place. So, I'm giving my maximum effort, to help them achieve that. So, the long-term goal is just that. What happens to municipal government? If there's a generation that doesn't want to be involved, then
it'll be forced.
It'll be forced, and then
to make that decision.
It's nice to go over the alternatives of what a new town government could look like, but sometimes it's, well, this is our only alternative because no one's involved, and
Right.
this is what the result is. So that's very important moving forward. Is how do we engage a new generation?
That's true. It's a nice way to sort of end this interview, and I really appreciate it. I think the residents that'll watch this program will also appreciate you and get a different handle on how you are and what you're all about.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a little small closing statement, if you'd like, I'd like to give you the floor.
Oh, excellent. Well, I've enjoyed my short time here. It's been great getting to know not only the people in town, but the department heads and the boards. And I really have to say, this is genuine. There's a lot of people that want to do a lot of good in town, from the employees to the department heads to the board and committee members to the select board. So it's really nice to be involved in that people really do want to do what's best for the town. So I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to making that happen.
And we do appreciate, and from what I've seen, you're doing a wonderful job, and thank you. Even though you got a little bit of a drive.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
No. Well, that's in summertime, so that's I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, this ends another program of Your Town. Stanley Mickelson signing off, and looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you.